I did a video, I posted it on my stories the other day. It's on my video page. And that talks about how I'm doing the psilocybin therapy and why I'm doing it. How I'm doing it with a group of people. It's like I'm not taking it and sitting in my bedroom. You're in a secure space. There's a lot of other people around, and it's very much rooted in community and talk therapy. So if you want to hear more about that, you can do my first video. Also talks about why I'm doing this. I never really felt a connection to my parents or really anyone in my family. I'm the youngest of 5. And not having that deep connection with your parents made me feel, because when you're a kid, you develop all these coping mechanisms and the false ego to tell me that I'm not lovable. So, I had a really rough start to the beginning of the year, and I realized that deep down is my biggest problem. And in order to move on to this next phase of my life, I really need to get that sorted. So, so the difference between, now the last video, I think I had maybe 3 journeys, and I think I was going on to the 4th one. And I mentioned I'm doing this every 3 weeks. You can do it about once a month. You shouldn't really do it more than every 3 weeks because you can get, it doesn't work as well and get resistant to it. But I'm going every 3 weeks, and they said that's fine. And they're taking a break in August, so I'm not gonna be able to go back until September. But the amazing thing that's happened between the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th is that I can access this part of my heart without the mushrooms. Now, the mushrooms basically, they stop your mind, they calm your mind. It puts you kind of in a meditative state. It stops the chatter that we all have in our mind that goes on all day, every day. And it really quiets you down, and it gets you access to your subconscious. And the way I can describe it is that there's like a door in your mind, in your heart, that you never knew was there, and now it's there. So you can access it. The way I've been doing it, the first 3 journeys, they did a playlist, and I'm playing it now. It's called Ascension, and it's on my Spotify. So they played the same music for the first 3 journeys. Now they've changed the music, but whatever. What I do is I'm at home. I don't take anything. This is no mushrooms. I don't take anything. I get into bed because when we're doing these journeys, you're in bed basically, and you've got an eye mask on. So I recreate that scene at my apartment. I'm in bed, I'm under the covers, I've got the eye mask on, and I play the music, and I start meditating. Now, I've never meditated before. I'm not a big meditator. But I basically just quiet my mind, and I tell myself you can think about things. I try not to think about anything, but I try not to say anything in my head, and I picture myself at the place where we journey. I'm picturing myself at these people's home, and we've been outside, so I just picture myself, by the pool, because that's where we're all around this pool, and I just picture myself there, and I just try not to think about anything. I really just I focus on the music. I just remind myself, listen to the music, and I picture, the only image in my head is me picturing myself sitting and at this place. So it doesn't happen every time, but many times I can then drop in to this place where I had to have mushrooms before, and now I don't. And I've had some really intense meditations. I don't know what else to call it. It's almost more or as intense as when I'm on the mushrooms, because it is intense when you're on the mushrooms, but you have this feeling in your body. It's like the last time, it was like I could feel the blood, coursing through my veins. So it can be a little distracting, especially if you're not used to that. So sometimes when I am journeying, it's not as deep as I want it to be, which is a common thing. It's not, I mean, everybody's been watching the Michael Pollan and, you know, your brain on these things, and he's like, there's visions, and it's, you know, you see yourself dying and blah, blah, blah. It's not really like that. I'm sure it is like that for some people, and maybe those people that he has interviewed have gotten a higher dose than what we get, but it's not really like that. And I'm mentioning that because a lot of people, when they do it, they get disappointed, myself included, and they feel like, oh, well, it's not really working, but it is working. And what I'm finding is, because I've had about 3 intense meditations, and I try to do them right after I've journeyed, because I've done 5 so far, and what I'm finding out is that when I'm journeying, the questions are coming up. And in the meditation, the answers are coming, which I was not expecting this at all. And the head person who guides us all is a functional medicine doctor. And he said, you know, the music really helps because there's that connection, you know, of memory. So if I didn't have the music, I don't know that I'd be able to do this. And it'll be interesting to see, now that they have new music, whether or not I'm going to be able to get there. But there are a lot of people who do meditate say you can get into this state without having to do mushrooms beforehand. And there's also a lot of deep breathing exercises where you kind of hyperoxygenate your blood that can also get you into these altered states. Because I know not everyone would want to take something like this, but it's medicine. I mean, you guys take antibiotics, we take pills all the time. It's really not anything different. But so the last journey I was on, I was basically hunting down my false ego. And I'm in the woods, and everyone on the bus is with me. If you guys watched my last thing, you know about my bus analogy, which is very similar to internal family systems, which is a type of psychotherapy that anyone I'm explaining to this bus analogy, they say, oh yeah, in internal family systems. I prefer a metaphor, and then just, you know, that's my brother and blah, blah, blah. But, so I'm on the journey, and I'm hunting down, we're in the woods, and we're all there, and we're running, and we're trying to get to him. And I catch, also during it, we're hunting him, but then it kicks in, and then all of a sudden, all my busmates are on the floor, just basking in the love. And a lot of the psilocybin, they call them heart openers, because they do truly open your heart. And a lot of people talk about while they're in it and afterwards, they just felt this intense sense of peace and love for themselves and for the people around them. I don't get that. I haven't gotten that far, I guess. I've also kind of gotten into like the angry phase of my healing, which, you know, it happens. And I feel like I'm not transforming enough. I'm not, you know, it's all just a way for your mind to kind of keep you in its place. Because the false ego does like to have control and tell you you're shit and you're not doing anything good, because otherwise you might not think that and dissolve them. But that's the other thing about the psilocybin. The heart openers are to help you dissolve your false ego. And the false ego is all the bullshit that we talk, like right before I came on, and I'm setting everything up, I'm like, I don't want to look at my face, I look terrible, you're disgusting, and I'm going through this thing, and I started getting upset, and I'm like, oh, this is just my false ego, because he doesn't want you to do this. He doesn't want you talking about this, because if the more you talk about it, the more these things go away. So I realized, okay, I'm not going to get upset. So the psilocybin really is about dissolving that, and that's a lot what Michael Pollan talks about, and even like Eckhart Tolle. about dissolving this false ego. And I haven't quite gotten there, but what I realized in my journey when I was hunting them down and it kicked in and everyone was like in love on the floor and feeling amazing, and I got pissed. I got really angry in the journey, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, we're here to hunt down this false ego. We're gonna kill him, and you guys are on the floor basking in the love. Like, love is not gonna help us. I don't need love. And I had this whole big thing in my journey about I don't need love, and that's not what's gonna help me right now. I'm angry. I need anger. Because I often say with what I do, I tell my clients, get angry at your stuff. Because if you get overwhelmed, that is like depressed, and then you're gonna give your stuff way too much power. But if you get angry, anger is a call to action. Usually when you're angry at stuff, you get stuff done. So I guess I was really thinking about that too much. And so I didn't have a great journey, and but that was okay. And then a few days later, I did the meditation, and I was thinking about myself. And again, you're trying to think about nothing, and you're thinking about stuff, because that's what we all do. And you're just telling yourself, okay, don't think about this, don't think about that, like quiet your mind. But then things start coming up, and you realize, okay, the subconscious is taking control, and I just have to let go and lean into it, which is very hard. I will say it's not an easy thing, but that's what you keep doing it for, is to constantly work at trying to let it all go and trying to like understand that your subconscious actually knows the true answer. So I'm in this meditation, and picturing myself on the grass, like in the fetal position, just completely like destroyed and depressed, and there's another person there, and he was rubbing my head to comfort me. And then it was my mom. And then I said, no. And this is all without the mushrooms. I was like, no, I don't want her here, because she can't comfort me. There's no connection there. But I treat it, it's almost like improv, you can't deny anything. It's always yes and. So I said, fine, it's her, that's fine. And then it was me comforting myself. And then it was my mom again. And then I realized, like, because this is a big thing that people talk about in therapy, like you can be the parent that you always wanted, especially if you didn't have a parent that was that great, or you really connected with. And I said, what if I did have this connection to my mother? And my heart totally I felt my heart open up. I felt lighter, and it was like this state of euphoria. And I'm in bed, and I'm thinking, and then it was like I went through my entire life. I went through like so many different memories of like being really small, and then being now and at college, and like what it would be like to have this beautiful connection to my parents, my brothers, my sister. And it was amazing. It was really amazing. And when I woke up, I laughed at myself, because it's like, yeah, love is the answer. Like, when I was journeying with the mushrooms, the question came up, and I was like, love is not the answer. I need something else. And then afterwards, during this meditation, I realized, no, this is exactly what you need. This is exactly what you need. You need to, I know, and it all sounds silly, because everyone talking about this, like talk to your inner child and be the parent that you wish you had. And I did that. And in a few of the journeys, I did try to talk to myself as a child, and it was very awkward. It was, I could barely hug her, I could barely hug myself. And it was just like, hey kid, what's up? Like a little punch on the shoulder. And now I realize that that's a huge barrier to your healing, so doing mushrooms 3 times and trying to be open as much as I can, I mean, I've really been dedicating so much time to this because I know that it's so important work that I have to do. So I've really been trying to do everything I can to relax and drop in and really be present when I'm on these things. But I did not realize that I could actually get to that same space without the mushrooms. But because of them, I now have this door to my heart that I never knew existed. It's like the dream that we all have, that like, oh my God, there's an extra room in my apartment that I never knew was there. And it's like that's what it is. And you guys can ask questions if you want. Another thing that I'm learning as I'm going. So I did a very little bit of acting. And when you're acting, you lean on the director. You're waiting. As an actor, you're taking direction. So I find when I'm doing anything, especially anything physical or whatever that I haven't done before, I like a lot of direction. And the guides don't really give you direction. They talk about the psychology behind everything, but they're not, and they say just lie down and relax and just open your mind. But I was really having trouble with that, because I feel like, well, I'm doing it wrong, or I'm not relaxing enough, or, you know, just tell me what to do, And I realized that I'm really I was leaning too much on the guides, because I would get up during my journeys, and because when I'm home meditating by myself, I don't get up. I thrash around a bit, which is common, that you have a physical response to these things. But I don't want to physically get up. Like when I'm journeying, I want to physically get up and I want to go talk to someone, or something just happened and I want to process it with them. And one of the big lessons I've learned is that people can only help you in the way they can help you. I can only do so much for my clients. I can tell them what to do, and I can guide them, facilitate a process, which I'm very good at, by the way. But I can't tell them what to keep and what to get rid of. I give them guidelines for it. So I can only help you in the best way that I can help you. And people can only help me the best way they can help me. And in the beginning, I was really leaning on all the guides and almost like, why aren't you helping me more? Like, why isn't this? And I realized that I have to do it. I mean, there's talk therapy and there's all that. And they do say great things that you say, okay. But the truth is, I have to do it. I have to sit in the journeys, and I have to face it, and I have to try to do it without getting up and without leaning on other people, which is funny because my whole life I've never leaned on anyone else. I'm not a big person that, like, I don't like to ask for help. I don't, I have my own business. I do everything on my own. But this year, getting so low, I realized I do need help. And I do, in the last couple of years, I'm like, I do want to expand my community and help with the website and everything else. So that is definitely part of it. But I guess and now that I'm saying this, it's all kind of coming full circle, because like the last couple of years, I have been thinking, like I have this great guy who's redesigning my website, which should be up soon. And he's been amazing. And these other few people that have come into my life. But now this year, I'm trying to figure out how to transition the services I give. I'm having a really hard time about it, because I keep thinking to myself, can't someone help me figure this out? I'm just realizing this as we're talking. And that's what I'm doing on these guides. I realize the balance before was I didn't ask for help. And now my balance now is I'm asking for too much help. Too much help in a way that someone cannot help me. Right? And these people are totally helping me. These guides are helping. They're giving me these mushrooms to enable me to have these deep thoughts and to have these deep feelings and to process this stuff. So, I just had a moment of revelation just now that I need to do it. I need to figure it out. And I know what's best for myself. If I could just quiet my mind and get to that space to actually listen, I could do that. I posted a thing that Eckhart Tolle said, which came up this morning, which was like perfect timing. And he said, you cannot transform yourself. You cannot transform yourself. You can create a space for transformation, for grace and love to enter. And that's exactly what I needed to hear, because these last couple weeks, I've been, doing these journeys is not easy, and meditating my own is not easy. Going through all of this work of looking at yourself and seeing yourself in a deep way, it's not fun, it's not easy, it's rewarding, and it's going to forever change me, because once you open these doors, you can't go back out. But a part of me is like, well, it's been 6 or 7 months that I've been working on myself. Like, when am I going to change? When am I going to have this huge transformation? When am I going to wake up and just feel light and easy? And that's just not the way it works. That's not the way it works. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break it to you, and I hate to break it to myself, because now I'm realizing like, that's not the way it works. But it is about, and the psilocybin, if you do it on a regular basis for 2 years, it can rewire your brain. And it rewires the brain in a way that something happens and you change your reaction to it. Because we all have these like triggers and these natural reactions to things. And working through all of this stuff in your mind and with the mushrooms, it creates new connections. So you do change, but it's more like if something comes up, you have a different reaction to it. It's not necessarily that we're all Eckhart Tolle and living in bliss and, all the time. Another thing that I've learned about this, because my last, the fourth journey, I was like, I'm going to kill my false ego. I'm going to hunt him down. I'm going to kill him. And I call it a him because he's an asshole. No offense to any guys watching now, because if you're watching me, I'm sure you're amazing. And I realized, because afterwards we do the integration and we talk about what did you learn on your journey and talk about it. And I said, well, I was going to I want to find my false ego. Because I saw him, I saw his face, and now that I saw his face, I can find him again, and I'm going to kill him. And they said, no. It's not about dissolving it or killing it, because it's inside me. It's more about, I need to find him a seat on the bus. Because I talked about this bus metaphor of all these different emotions and moods and reactions and different ways that we go through the world every day. And I've named them all, not all of them, but I've named most of them. There's evening Laura, there's morning Laura, they would always fight. There's cranky grandpa, who's an asshole. But it's not his fault. He can't help that he's cranky grandpa. There is dad. It's not my dad, but it's like when I wake up and he's driving the bus, it's like, why did that person not pay you? Why is this still broken? Why haven't you gone to that store? And then all of a sudden I do all these things. It's very productive. And there's all these other ones. There's the director, the performer, whatever. And years ago, I used to fight with all of them. Because it was like, oh, evening Laura doesn't like morning Laura, because she's always talking about what evening Laura didn't do. And I've worked through all of those different parts of me. Even cranky grandpa. We hated cranky grandpa. But now we just realize, okay, cranky grandpa needs to sit in the back. He cannot get near the driver's seat because he was driving for a while. And believe me, you don't want to see cranky grandpa driving the bus. So we have him in the back. And now when he chimes up, whenever I have this reaction to something, like I hear a loud noise or a dog barking, or I smell smoke in the street, someone in front of me smoking, and cranky grandpa would just bust out. Now I understand that's him. And we're just like, oh, that's just cranky grandpa. Like, I'm not going to get upset. That's just a little cranky grandpa in the back. So basically that's what they're saying. I need to do that with my false ego. I need to recognize, like I did earlier, before I started this, I had a little meltdown. You don't look good. And I hate staring. I don't want to stare at my face for an hour on these things. And I realized it was my false ego trying to shake me up. So I either wouldn't do it or it would go bad, and then I would feel even worse about myself. So that's a big lesson that I've learned, which is all these lessons are they're just tools. My toolbox is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Another one in one of my journeys before, which is now really, really getting deep, is asking for what I need. I have a hard time in relationships, whether it's with clients or intimate or with friends, giving boundaries and saying, like, it's okay to ask for what I need. It's okay to say, no, I don't want to work on Saturday or whatever, because I'm a people pleaser, because, you know, I had to be as a kid to get any kind of love or attention. And I realized, you know, when you're doing these things, you don't even realize you're doing them. So I realized that that's something that I really need to work on. And that is something that happened during a journey with the mushrooms, that I was having a really hard time in it. And I got up and I asked for help. And I said, I want more of mushrooms. Because you always feel like you want to go in deeper. And they're like, we can't give you any more. Like, we've given you as much as we can. You can't, because there's a max, you know, they're not giving you a lot. And I went back down and I was still in it. And I was like, no, you need to get back up and ask for help, knowing full well they're not going to help you in the way that you want them to help you. And that's okay. The exercise is more getting up and going to someone and looking them in the face and saying, this is the help I need, and not worrying about what their answer is. So that was a big one. Let's see. I mean, really, that's it. I don't know if I could talk for an hour about this, because it really is just, you know, doing this therapy is a fucking amazing, and it's hard, but it truly does open up something inside you that you didn't have access to before. And I've been a psychotherapist. I've been in my own little personal therapy since I was old enough to understand what was going on around me, which I think is around 8. And I realized this is a shit show. I better work on myself now, because I'm going to end up like my parents, and I did not want to end up like my parents. So I've been in this kind of therapy. I've had deep conversations with myself, deep, honest conversations with myself. But this is like a totally different level. It's like getting a whole nother level in the house. It's like there's an attic that I didn't even know existed. Now I have this door that I can get to. If I really do that deep meditation, I can get into that space again. So it's really, it's something that I didn't think would happen. And I'm going to be doing these meditations on my own until I can journey again, which is going to be in mid-September. But the truth is, I panicked. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to journey for 6 weeks with the mushrooms. And then I realized maybe this is good. Maybe I need to actually take a break, because I've been pushing myself so hard these last 6-7 months to heal myself, that I realized it's okay to take a break. Now, a lot of what we talk about in the journey experience is talk therapy. And I wanted to share with you guys some things that I have been listening to that have really been helping with the journey and understanding what's going on in my head and everything around me. Now, I have a highlight called Healing that, because I've talked about all of these podcasts and books on my stories, but this is a place that you guys can go to and access them whenever you want, or it at least shows you what it is, and then you can look it up. Because I think whether or not, you know, I know a lot of people wouldn't do this therapy, I highly recommend it, or won't have access to it. All of these books are, I don't think I would have the same experience just doing the mushrooms and not listening to all these podcasts. Is there a okay, here we go. Is there a contradiction in what you said before about asking for too much help, needing to do it yourself, versus asking for what you need in a bounded way? Is there a contradiction in what you said about asking for too much help, needing to do so, and asking for what you need in a bounded way? Maybe I'm not understanding the question, but yeah, probably. I tend to, my psychotherapist told me this years ago. She's like, what you said in the first part of the sentence contradicts the last part of the sentence. I guess, let me say it again, and then maybe talk through this, and you can let me know if this is helpful, or if I'm not answering the right question. So, growing up, I wasn't allowed to ask for help, so I never asked for help. I don't ask people's opinions on things. Like growing up, I never asked anyone's opinion. My friends were always asking their parents questions. Oh, what do I do about this? I'm like, I don't ask for help. And then a few years ago, I realized I need to expand my community. I need, like, to keep this business going and to get it on a higher level, I'm going to need help. Whether it's with my web person or a business mentor, which I don't have. And so I started opening myself up to getting help from other people. And I think with this therapy, in the beginning, I think I was relying too much on the help. So I think, like, I'm not terribly good with balance. So the balance before was not asking for help. And then this one was asking for too much help. And I've realized going through these journeys that, and the guys are always saying, like, I can't give you the answer. I can talk you through it, but you need to do all this work yourself. So, so yes, I'm trying to learn how to ask for help in a healthy, more boundaried way, respecting the other person and myself, because I realized that there has to be a balance, because it was like no help before and now too much. Now I realized I still have to do everything myself. I mean, my web guy is like, listen, I write everything on the website and I take all the photos. So he can only do so much without me. I still have to do it. Was that clarifying, or did I just make it worse? Which sometimes I do when I'm trying to explain something. Yeah, let me know if that was, if that answered your question, or if that just made it more confusing, or I just contradicted myself even more. But yeah, I think a part of this whole time that I'm spending myself this year is about balance, and is about learning about my own boundaries and understanding my emotional needs, and being able to say that to, like, a partner, to say, like, this is the kind of thing that I need to feel safe, and not being nervous about saying that, if that makes sense. But if you want to respond and let me know if that was helpful, worthwhile to me. So I'm going to tell you guys about okay, so there's Eckhart Tolle, and now I'm going to be honest, I haven't read any of these books. I don't read, I wear glasses, it's very difficult for me to read. It's not difficult for me to read, I just get headaches. So I don't like reading. So I've gone through podcasts, and I've done some audiobooks on that stuff. So Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, he did, and I'll put these all in the comments, he did Oprah Winfrey, and he did a chapter by chapter study on the book. And I think it's 10 chapters, so it's 10 hours of going through this book and understanding it's all about the ego and the false ego and emotions and thoughts. It's really helpful. I don't think I would be getting the same out of these journeys, whether I'm doing it on my own or with the mushrooms, if I haven't studied all of these other things. As a friend of mine is doing it with me. The first 3 we did together, and she hasn't been able to do the other 2, or our schedules are contradiction. And I know she's having a bit of a hard time, so I've really encouraged her to try to find the time to listen to any or all of these. My favorite podcast is the 10% Happier with Dan Harris. I just think he's such a great interviewer, and I like that he's not, he's kind of like me. He's a bit of a dick, and he's not like so happy cheery and so like gung-ho. He's a bit of a skeptic, and I like that about him. I like that that's the whole point of his 10% Happier. Because it's all about meditation, that if you meditate, it's not going to change your life, but it'll make you 10% happier. Ditto, I'm working on the same journey from a career professional aspect. Yeah, it's hard. I'm with you. You do make sense. I'm just wondering about the too much help. I guess we can ask for help while also knowing we need to do the work ourselves. Sorry if the question wasn't clear. Don't be sorry. It's all me. So I'm just going to read it again. You do make sense. I'm wondering about the too much help. I guess we can ask for help while also knowing we need to do the work ourselves. I guess it's not, I would say it's more my own fear that I'm doing something wrong. And that's what it is. It's fear. It's this fear that I'm not doing it right. I must be doing something wrong. So now I need to rely on this person to just, I would beg them, like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. And they're like, it's nothing really to do. You just have to open your mind and open your heart. So I think it was more that. It was the fear in me to think that I can't possibly know what I'm doing. I can't possibly be doing this right. So I need help. And I really was like on the floor begging. And then realized like I have to. So there's a lack of trust in yourself, 100%. The whole reason why I'm doing all of this. And here's the thing. I've been working on myself and my self-esteem since I was very young. Because I was, once I awoke, when you're like 8 or 9 and like you kind of get a real consciousness and I saw what was around me, I was like, this is a shit show. And I was depressed, suicidal. It's, so I've been working on myself for years. For me to be able to say, which was like maybe 10 years ago, 7 years ago, for me to be able to say, like if I'm at a party and my friends are introducing me, they're like, oh, this is Laura, she's amazing, and she does this great work, and she's been in the New York Times, she's been in a magazine. I just be like, don't mention that, like don't talk about that. So for me to say, to have any kind of confidence, and listen, I've always been popular. I've always gotten good grades. I've always been popular. I did theater. Like, you wouldn't think that a person who outwardly looks like me, and you can look at my life to think like, wow, she has self-esteem issues. But they're deep because I never felt that connection to my parents. And I didn't realize until this year that working on myself and building trust and building confidence in myself as a friend and at work is not the same as in your intimate life. So, because I've always, I'm perpetually single, never wanted to get married, never wanted kids. I didn't understand why anyone would date. That was like, why? But last year I met someone and it was amazing and things didn't work out. I have a list of all the things that I did wrong. But that's why I'm doing all this, because I realized, shit, I thought I had all this confidence that I built up in myself. But until I really deal with the deeper part of it, like when you don't feel connected to your parents, it's a real fucking disconnect if you don't work on that. Because I didn't have a connection with them or anyone else in my family, like we all get along. It's not like I hate anybody. But there's not this deep, like magnetic connection. I can make loose connections with people. I connect with a lot of you guys. I'm very connected to my friends, but it's different on an intimate level. And I realized that I have to work on that because I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like I was loved. Therefore, I am unlovable. When you think your parents don't love you as a child, you think, well, it must be my fault because if I was lovable, they would love me, right? I've recently discovered, yes, Oprah's Super Soul Sunday podcast on Spotify to be extremely helpful, 100%. Yeah, that's where she interviewed Eckhart Tolle and his book, The New Earth. And and she was on my list. I was going to tell you guys about it. Yeah, because I love that. Love that. Also 10% Happier, which I love. I don't love all of them, but I love Dan Harris. Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart. That's a really good one. It's really talking about your emotions and how envy is different than jealousy and anger is different than resentment. And it's just mind-opening, all the different emotions that we have. And another thing about this psilocybin therapy is about dealing with the thoughts in your head and the emotions that come with it. That we get so caught up in these thoughts, or we get so caught, like an emotion comes, like, oh, I feel fear or I feel sad. And all of a sudden you're like in it. And it's these thoughts, these emotions are not the ocean. it's like a cloud in the sky. They come and go. And it doesn't mean that just because I'm feeling sad this 1 second means I have to fall into it and be so sad and just like, been watching Super Soul for years. Love it. Oh, I didn't know it was on for that long. That's awesome. Any podcast with Michael Pollan on Change Your Mind. There's a book, there's a Netflix series on it, and he talks about LSD. It's all the psychedelics: LSD, mescaline, psilocybin, and ayahuasca, and how they're all different, but how they all kind of lead to the same thing. And he also talks about the cultural ties to them, and how they came about and everything. But it does talk about the science of it. I'm listening to Tim Ferriss. He did like a 2.5-hour interview with Michael Pollan, because they really get into like the technical part of it and the science part of it. And I find that all really interesting. And so listening to all of these podcasts, and I listen to them. I listened to the Eckhart Tolle New Earth Soul, what is it called? Oprah Super Soul Sunday. It's 10 episodes. It's 10 hours. I've listened to it. I've listened to some episodes 10 times. So I just listen to it over and over and over again, because I think with a lot of these podcasts and a lot of these books, you really do have to read it over and over again. And I like to also listen to them after I've journeyed, because sometimes I learn something new in my journey that when I listen to the podcast, I get something totally new and fresh out of it, or it's just deeper, That's like watching a movie 100 times, and every time you're watching it, or you get older and you're like, oh, there's a joke in there that I didn't get when I was 10. So between doing all of this, like doing all of these podcasts on their own, I think is transformative, and I think it's amazing. I'm also going back, like I told you, I'm going back to my acupuncturist, and he's amazing. And he does pulse diagnostics, and really taking time away from work to dedicate myself to this, which I do have to start getting back to work, because someone's got some bills to pay for the tax man. Whatever, money will come. I'm not really worried about it. But doing the mushroom journeys with this is, it just speeds it up. I was telling a friend of mine, doing these mushrooms journeys, because it's overnight and then you process for a couple of days, it's like a year's worth of therapy in a weekend. There's also ketamine. There are clinics in the city. There's Nushama here in the city, and they do ketamine. I haven't done ketamine. It's different. It's not the same as psilocybin, but the results, like the overall results, are very similar. So that's actually accessible. So I'm gonna this video will be on my video page. I'm going to all of these podcasts that I talked about are I'll put that in the comments, but they're also referenced in my highlight called Healing. So you guys can access that anytime. And my playlist, now listen, I know you guys haven't journeyed, so the music is not going to be the same, but it's beautiful, really beautiful, calming music that I think that it's really nice to have on when you want a quiet moment. And when I'm meditating, I just calm myself down, and the only thing I do say to myself is listen to the music. Because if you can listen to the music, you're out of yourself and you're into the moment. Like, think about, why does everyone love concerts? Because you're just listening to the music. You're not thinking about dinner. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about, I ruined my favorite pair of jeans, or I lost $20. When you're in a concert, you're just thinking about the music, and that's when you feel amazing. So yeah. Okay, I've been talking for 46 minutes. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give you a minute to if you guys have any more questions. And sometimes I get a little bit should I tell you exactly what I've learned, and my own personal details. But the truth is, when we're journeying, there are, 11 to 20 people there. And the biggest part of it with the group that I'm doing it is about community and is about sharing your own experience, because when I'm listening to someone else talk about their journey and what they learned and what their issues are, it's like, oh yeah, I have the same thing. That's interesting that person would have that, because I wouldn't think that would be that person's problem. I'm in a similar boat, 10 plus years single in my 40s, and don't really know if I'll ever meet a partner. Thank you for sharing your journey. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I never thought I would get married. Like, I met this person totally random. It was like out of a movie. It was through work. And it really, like, totally knocked me off my feet, because I don't think I've ever met someone and had this, like, oh, there he is, So, I don't know. I don't know if I'll meet someone else. I don't really care. I kind of want to now, but now I'm also like, I'm perfectly good on my own. And quite frankly, yeah, you're in your 40s. I'm 48. And most of my friends have been married for a long time. Are they that happy? I mean, studies show that single women, I think it's single women without kids, are the happiest people. Men are usually happier partnered up, but women are actually happier single. And I talk about this with a lot of my clients and my friends who've been married for a long time, about marriage is not bliss, and a lot of the times people have been married for a long time and it's just a partnership and it's just a way to raise the kids, and it's not necessarily this, amazing, whatever. Yes, is it okay for us to say single? Is that a question? Oh my God, is that really a question, Amy? Totally. Absolutely, it's okay for us to say single. I've been single for 47 years. I've honestly never questioned being single. Especially during COVID. Because a lot of my friends are like, oh, you poor thing, you're home alone. That's so sad. I'm like, yeah, I'm home alone. It's amazing. Fucking have some person being around, like not flushing the toilet or doing whatever they're doing, or eating the chips when we can't go to the grocery store. But honestly, Amy, I think the truth is, agreed, romantic interest seems to go away with my married friends. Oh, 1,000%. It's transactional, I find. I think that a lot of people, because when I was 20, I was like, why would I get married? So when I would talk to older people, they would I would meet older people at parties who are married, and I would say, like, I'm not married, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't want kids. And they're like, good. They're like, we have kids, we've been married for 20 years. And if we had to do it again, we probably wouldn't be married, and we probably wouldn't have had kids. And they were perfectly happy, but they were like, I think that it's propaganda. Okay, so now I'm going to go on a totally another rant. It's propaganda. I want to do like a whole nother, I feel like I should create a TikTok just on propaganda in movies, because I was watching a movie the other night, and it was with Paul Rudd and Liz Lemon. What's her name? Tina Fey. And like, she's a college admissions, and she's single, and she never had kids, and her mother's kooky, and she meets Paul Rudd, and she thinks she meets this kid that was a kid she put up for adoption in college, and all of a sudden she changes, and she's like, oh, now I want to be married and have kids. I'm like, this is fucking propaganda. 20 minutes into the movie, I'm like, this is propaganda. When you start looking at these movies, sorry, I'm going on a totally separate rant here, but I think it's important. Like, start watching these movies about girls and women and, at all different ages, because it's never about guys. It's always about women. Like, oh, I never wanted kids, but now at the end of the movie, now I want kids. It's like, fuck you. It's such propaganda. There was another movie with Ben Stiller. Oh, I can't remember the names. It was like Adam Driver, Ben Stiller. Who was married to Liev Schreiber? The blonde girl. She was married to Liev Schreiber, and they became friends with Adam Driver and this other Amanda Seyfried or something, the blonde, really cute one, and they never wanted kids, and they were like all happy, and their other friends convince them, like at the end of the movie, to fucking adopt a baby. Naomi Watts, yes, thank you. And then they adopted a baby at the end, and they're like late 40s. I'm like, this is fucking propaganda. They were perfectly happy. The thing is, they were perfectly happy before, and their friends with kids weren't terribly happy, or it didn't seem that happy. But at the end of the movie, now they have kids. I'm like, this is fucking propaganda. So would that be a good TikTok thing to start if I just go on these propaganda rounds on these fucking stupid movies? And I'm not even talking about the normal, basic, like, romantic comedies, because I don't watch that. I don't like any of them. It's these other movies that are disguising themselves not as romantic comedies, because I can't even watch those, but other movies that just seem like, oh, just cool people. Yeah. So, any other questions relating to the mushroom journey and not relating to the fake idea that, oh, Bridesmaids. Okay, well, one more. I watched Bridesmaids with my friend with, what's her name, from Saturday Night Live. And this Cinderella, yes. Oh, Cinderella, they start them down. Yeah, it's all, like, whenever I would read these stories to my nieces, I'd always change the entire story, and they'd get mad at me. And I'm like, no. She got her PhD, and she's perfectly happy alone, and she didn't have kids, and the prince turned out to be an asshole, and whatever. So the movie Bridesmaid, it really bothered me because they portrayed her, no, I forgot her name, Kirsten Wiig. They portrayed her as pathetic and so desperate. And it's like, yeah, all the women that I know, and I have a lot of clients who are late 40s, 50s, who are not married. They've either never been married or they're divorced, are so fucking happy. The ones who are dating and trying, and they're the ones who are miserable. I didn't mean to totally rear off topic, but that's part of it. So, okay, any other questions? I'll give you guys a minute to type any out. But again, I will put all of these podcasts that I talked about in the comments when I post this on my video page. And again, this will be also on my healing highlight, that you can access this, and you can access all of the other podcasts, because I think it's, I think all this work is really important. But I think even if I didn't do the psilocybin and I just listened to these podcasts, it does change you. I just think that the psilocybin just takes it way further and way deeper, and really just accelerates the process of processing all of this stuff that you learn. Okay, so my cousin, bless her heart, I was saying, she's like, oh, how's it going? I'm like, oh, it's like a year of therapy in one weekend. And she's like, LOL, therapy doesn't take that long. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to respond to that. And she's like, there's a scene in that movie, Molly's Game, at the end, where she sees her dad, and he's a psychotherapist, and he tells her like all the reasons why, you know, like she has problems or something. And he's like, there, I just saved you 15 years of therapy. I was like, first of all, what does that have to do with anything? Second of all, I'm like, you know, understanding why you are the way you are is not the same as processing it and integrating it into your life and fully understanding it and getting that deep in touch with yourself to work through it. So anyway, so these are the people I have to deal with sometimes. I love her, but I was like, okay, you can keep your therapy up here. I want to get down here. I want to get into the basement and clear this shit out. Thank you guys for coming. And you know, you guys can always send me questions about this therapy, because I do want to keep keeping you guys updated and talking about it, because I think it's important to talk about it. But sometimes I'm wondering, like, well, what do they even want to know? Or maybe it's just better that I just talk and rant and whatever. Guys, thanks for coming. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.